just a reflection. Here we are in 2018, about to go into 2019. And I feel the need to reflect on we come a long way. I remember back in the younger eras, the 60s and eras as kids and young adults, when that era was so much more different because life was a lot more simpler. Uh, I remember prophylactics. As little young, fast ass kids, there was an era in time where you had to be a certain age to go into a drugstore and ask a pharmacist to sell you a prophylactic, a rubber. Now, why does that need to be a subject right now? Uh, Back in that era, we had, good times and whatnot, but it was a lot more different than where we're at today. I used to remember how they used to have to tell you, don't put your rubber in your wallet or carry it in your back pocket because it'll damage the condom. And and there used to be this little story, this little occasion where people, where there were people who remember and recall they would finally get a rubber, a condom, and they weren't that easy to acquire, let alone that simple. There were only two kinds. There was a non-lubricated that was like a tire, literally, like our latex glove. It was rolled up in this little coin or whatnot, and uh, in order for them to make a dry piece of latex or rubber capable of being rubbed up there like that, they would have to put powder or something on it. So, and then there was the lubricated. The lubricated ones were the same dry ones, but they would kind of squeeze in a certain amount of this surgical lube stuff that, unlike lubes, today, it wasn't too good on heat or whatnot, and so they would dry up real sticky, real nasty, and it always felt cold. You could put it in your back pocket or whatnot, and it was always, ew, that's goo. Anywho, one size, and if you were endowed, then it was more of a struggle because these things were unforgiving. I mean, they were real thick and this, that, and the other. And, people used to play with them and whatnot. I mean, it was harder to even blow in a balloon. They were so thick. But having that moment where it never failed. You finally, get a chance and you got Susie Rotten Crotch out there and she's ready to give it to you. And she looks up, do you have a rubber? And you go, ta-da! As a matter of fact, I do. And you reach into your wallet and you pull that little son-bitch up and you rip it open and that mug is dry, stuck, and impossible to roll out. It's like, wah, 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 wah. And there are memories like that. Memories of back in the day when kids didn't think about doing it all the way. We did a lot of rubbing on each other. We used to call it dry humping. And we would do those things for days and hours. And oh man, when we ever gonna this, that, and the other? I remember hygiene was different in those eras. We had smells. Speaking of smells, I got my little wave cap on, which brings me to this point of back in that era and time. I used to remember that there was this culture and whatnot that I've always studied women's, but I got them back in the era that I'm speaking of. Pantyhose. I used to remember that pantyhose were the most indestructible things that were so different, so structured, so strong. They didn't run as much as they would. Women would wash them. People washed pantyhose. You would always see pantyhose drying somewhere. And what was most important about that in this occasion is the mere fact that as a little badass boy, you know, I used to remember every time you go in somebody's bathroom, they'd have pantyhose sitting up. And uh, every now and then, you know, you would notice that there were different smells because one thing about pantyhose back in that era is the one thing that would cause them to throw a good pair of pantyhose away is when they no longer could wash this smell that would happen with this material that pantyhose were in to such a degree that the only thing you could do is cut the feet out and, you know, make it something you can put for a wave cap, literally. And you know, you couldn't do that to, you know, you get your butt whooped for trying to get a wave cap out of a perfectly good pair of pantyhose from somebody because, but I used to remember the smells. I used to remember blue jeans. Back in the old, we sneaking out to the little house party thing. We ain't got no damn business out there grinding on each other. Turn out the lights, you know, and you got your girl and y'all move all up on a brand new, you know, on the walls of their house and stuff like that. And y'all get to grinding and it's getting all hot and bothered. And y'all might even do the damn thing or something like that. And it's just, and blue jeans were a different grade and quality back in that day. You used to buy, you know, certain blue jeans and you used to have to wash them, and you know, like a couple of times before you can even wear them. And even when you wore them, if you wore them too soon and you didn't wash them enough, then you know the dye in them. And so I used to remember being at parties and stuff. I remember this one little girl, she threw a little party at her mama's house, and the whole nine, and everybody was grinding on the walls and everything. And then when the party was over and they turned the lights on, there was all of these butt stains of blue jean ass prints all over her mom and them's walls. So even if they got everything else cleaned up, they couldn't get that blue jean dye out of because it was in, especially if you had flat white paint, you know, the old stuff, because it would sink into the paint. The only way you can do that and get that blue jean ink out of white walls was you had to literally put a primer on top of that and then paint over top of that again because it would sink back into the, oh man, those were the days. I'm saying all these things to say that there's a lot of times that we need to just be reminded or, you know, in some cases reminisce on the intricacies. For me, I'm a mentalist. I sometimes recall some of the most oddest things, and this is one of them. You know, it wasn't just the error, but it was the realities, the taste, the smells, the feels that were so much more different because we were more what would be the word for that? Not savage, but you know, what's the other word? We were more primitive. Primitive. Wow. Come a long way to be at 2018, and this is a reminisce moment.